Hello and welcome to this session. Here we will be covering how to work with if statement, if with an else statement, else if ladder, nested if statement, and which one is better and ought to be used. So without further delay, let's jump right in. In this lesson, we are going to see how to work with if-else statements. If-else statements is how we make decisions on whether to execute a piece of code or not. If statements use an expression which should evaluate to a Boolean value. If the Boolean value is true, then the immediate code block is executed, else the block is skipped. If that block is followed by an else block, then that block gets executed if the if condition is false. There are a few ways in which we can use if-else statements, such as only if statement, if with else statement, else if ladder, and we will be walking through them shortly. So quickly jumping onto the code. So in our source package, I'll go and create a package. And in this Java package, I'll create a class. I'll name the class if-else demo. I'll type main method and tab out. That will give me the signature of the main method. Inside the main method, I will declare two integers. Number 1, let's say, is 15, and int number 2 is, let's say, 20. So we will basically see how if condition is worked. So I say how if condition. So let's say I type if statement first, the if keyword. Then I type if number 1 is greater than number 2, then I will type SOUT and tab out, and then I'll type number 1 is greater than number 2. So what basically this does is the if condition will actually check if number 1 is greater than number 2. So number 1 is 15, number 2 is 20. So this condition is false. So this statement will not be executed. So let us quickly try and see what is the output. I'll do Shift plus F10 to run the code. As you can see, there is no visible output. Now, if I write the if condition like this, if number 1 is less than number 2, then type number 1 is less than plus number 2, and then I try running again with Shift plus F10. Here I see the output is getting printed, 15 is less than 20, because this condition is true. Since number 1, 15 is indeed less than number 2, which is 20. Now let's say I want to use the else condition. So how to combine both the above statements using else? Or the above statements using else. So I can rewrite the above two conditions in the following way. So if number 1 is greater than number 2, then I'll just copy this, paste it here, and then I'll type else, and I'll write one more block here and write the second condition above. So what this basically does is, if this condition evaluates to a Boolean true, then this code block, the block that I'm highlighting, will get executed. Else, this particular block will get executed. So here there is no need to write two ifs. Only one if is sufficient with the else keyword. So now if we run the code, and let me comment this part out just for simplicity's sake. So now we will get the same output. So we get the same output here. Now we will see how we can use the if-else ladder. How to create the else if ladder. So for the use case, I'll introduce a third variable called number 3, and I will provide it a value of, let's say, 11. Now if we jump to the if-else ladder use case and type if number 1 is less than number 3, number 1 is less than number 3. Now I'll type else if number 1 is less than number 2, and within this I'll write one more if statement. Number 1 is less than number 2, hence I'll print a final block. Just a typo, sorry about that. Number 1 is greater than number 2 and number 3. So this is how we write a else if ladder. So we check for one particular condition. If this condition is not satisfied, that means it results in a false value, it jumps to the next if condition and sees whether that is true. So since number 3 is 11 and number 1 is 15, so this will be false, and then it will jump to this particular if check. Here again it will see that number 1 being 15, number 2 is 20. I guess it's 20, yes. So this will be successful. So it will print out this particular statement, and this final else will not actually execute because this condition has already been satisfied. So the thing is, there are 3 code blocks. This is one, the next one being this one, and another one being this one. So only one of these 3 code blocks will get executed in a if-else ladder. We can check using strings as well. So we'll quickly see that example. So how to work with strings in an else if ladder. So let's say I define a string, say my company, and I assign a string called Wipro. Then I check if my company equals TCS, then print company is TCS. Else, if I'm adding the else if check now, my company equals to, let's say, Cognizant, then I'm printing out company is Cognizant. Else if my company equals to Wipro, then I'm printing out company is Wipro. Else, I'll print a final statement that none of the company did match any of the conditions. So this is like a catch-all block. If all the 3 conditions are not satisfied, this particular block will be executed. So in this one, I will just print company dot point. So let's execute the code First, we will check what was the output for this one. So ideally, it should be this statement, line number 29 should be executed. So I'll just comment this block for now. Now we'll quickly check this. So 15 is less than 20. So this got executed. And in the next string, since my company has been assigned Wipro value, so this statement will fail. Then it will come to the next else if check. Here also it will fail because the string doesn't match. Next it will come to this block, and here there is a success. The strings are matching. So it will print out company is Wipro, which we see here. Company is Wipro. So the catch-all block did not execute the final else. So ideally, if all these three fails, this particular block gets executed. If and else statements are okay as long as the conditions are not very complex. But once the conditions start becoming complex, it introduces messy, unreadable code which might turn into maintenance nightmare. For example, let's say we need to print different message for say a particular class of students for a particular grade that they have attained. We will try to use the else if ladder and then see the problems that they introduce. So I'll go back to the main method. I'll start declaring two variables. So one can be the student class, which is let's say class 5, and one more variable which will represent the student grade. Let's say it's initially a value of A. So if let's say a student is from class 5 and the grade that they have achieved is let's say A, then I want to print out the following message: grade 5, very good result. Then using the else if construct, let's say the student is belonging to class 5 and student grade let's say is B, then I want to output a different message: grade 5, good result. Okay. Else if student belongs to let's say class 5 and achieved some other grade which is not grade A or grade B. So student grade not equal to A and student grade not equal to let's say B. In that case, I want to output let's say grade 5 needs improvement. Okay. Next, let's say I want to start with class 6. So let's say the student class is now class 6 and they have achieved let's say grade A. Student grade is let's say A. In that case, I want to output grade 6, very good result. Else, let's say student is still from class 6 and student grade is let's say B. Oops, there is a typo in this line. It should be double equals. Let's say the student from class 6 got grade B. I want to output grade 6, good result. Else, if let's say the student is from class 6 and neither achieved grade A or grade B, let's say the student achieved grade C. So student in grade not equals to A and student in grade not equals to let's say B. In this case, I want to put grade 6 needs improvement. Else, let's say a final use case can be the student can neither belong to class 5 or class 6. In that case, we will print a different message. So let's say student class not equal to class 5 and student class not equal to, let's say, class 6. In that case, I would output student doesn't belong to class 5 or 6. So now let's say when I run this code, my initial values are 5 and A. So it will evaluate this particular expression to true and we should get grade 5, very good result. Let's run and check quickly. So we are getting grade 5, very good result. So few observations that we see here is the code is non-readable. Its readability aspect is not that good because people will tend to get confused when conditions such as these arise. These are quite complex conditions, right? So we can write the same code using nested if-else structure. It's a new way to write the if-else ladder, which makes your code more readable and also it is easy to understand. Plus, we don't need to type so much. As you can see, we have to type the same conditions over and over again. There, this aspect will be reduced. So we will quickly see how we can write the same logic which this code does using the nested if condition. So I'll just quickly put a new line. So let's say if a student is from class 5, right? So currently the above code checks that if the student is from class 5, it will check three things. If the student achieved grade A, do something. If the student achieved grade B, do something. If the student attained something else, then do something else as well. So three conditions needs to be covered under a student of class 5. If we go to student of class 6, we will see the same three conditions being evaluated for them as well. And we have one condition which comes outside both the classes of students of either class 5 or class 6. So let's structure our code in such a way. So if student is from class 5, then within the code block, we are going to write one more if statement. So if student grade equals A, then I will print out grade 5, very good result. This is one statement. Next, I will club it with a else if, that if the student is still from class 5 and achieved grade B, let's say now the grade is B. I want to print out grade 5, good result. Else, let's say they achieved some other grade. So I will not write a if this time. I'll write the final else. So in that case, we will write grade 5 needs improvement. Now we will move out of the block of students of class 5 and we will write block for student of class 6. So else if student class is now 6, basically we can copy the above code. So I'll just quickly copy the above code and make minor changes in the message that we are printing. And then let's say I have this final condition that this will be printed when the student is neither from class 5 or class 6. That can be taken care of by the final else block which comes outside. So if student of class 5 is not satisfied, we don't execute this block. Now, if the student is not also from class 6, we don't execute this block. And finally, If these two conditions fail, it will execute the third, which is kind of aligning with the final condition that we have written here. So I'll just copy that same condition and print it here. So we will now see whether both the code blocks does the same thing. So I'll start with 5a. So both the code blocks should output this statement twice. So let's quickly run. So I can see grade 5, very good result. So this is coming from this structure, and the next result message is coming from the nested if structure. So both are kind of same. Let's say no student is from class 5 and achieved grade B, and I'll run this again. So both are giving grade 5 good result. If let's say the student is from class 5 and attends C, if I run this, it says grade 5 needs improvement twice. I'll move to class 6 and I'll make the grade to A, and we'll see the same messages. So grade 6, very good result, printed twice. I move to student grade B for students of class 6. Same message being printed twice. I'll move to class 6 grade C and run it. Grade 6 needs improvement. And finally, I'll make the student class, let's say 7. In that case, the student grade doesn't matter because we haven't coded any logic for students of class 7. So students of class 7 should ideally result in the final message that the student does not belong to class 5 or 6 from both the blocks. Let's run this. So we can see this message being printed twice. So that's pretty much about nested if structure and the pros and cons of using nested if along with the normal if else ladder. That was long, wasn't it? Well, I'm glad we have covered a lot of ground. Hope you are excited as I am for the next lesson on using switch case statements. See you there. Bye.